Good morning, everyone. Good morning. The time for convening having arrived, and the Senate will come to order, please. At this time, I'll ask all unauthorized persons to exit the chamber. All unauthorized persons to exit the chamber. I'll recognize the senator from the 27th District.
Mr. President, it is great to have a wonderful presiding officer with us this morning and look forward to your excellent management of this chamber. We have some amazing pages here this morning. I want to thank all of you. I understand, by the way, the page wage this year doubled from $10 to $20. So y'all spend that wisely and enjoy your excused day from school. Mr. President, we have with us this morning Wynn Skidmore. We have Brielle Baker. We have Alphomia Gazai, actually, I'm sorry about that. We have Annalie Hamlin, Christina Hamlin, Maylee Hamlin, Monica Lamb, Ava Norris, McClendon Ross, Arabella Rush, Aditha Samtani, Sophia Steinwinder, Emma Timberlake, and Lauren Watson. Y'all thank our pages this morning that are going to do some great work for us. And Mr. President, just like our rules chairman normally does, the journal has been thoroughly read and found to be correct.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. Thanks for the introduction of the pages. We're delighted to have y'all with us. Thanks for participating in the page program. And when you head back home and go to school, tell all your friends and colleagues and fellow students about the great program we have and encourage them to come as well. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none, and the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators having bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the secretary's desk at this time. All right, first readings in reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 38 by Senator Dolezal, the 27th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 71 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated.
Economic Development.
Senate Bill 39 by Senator Tillery, the 19th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 18 of Title 45, Chapter 4 of Title 49, and
Insurance and Labor.
Senate Bill 40 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 14.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 41 by Senator Jackson of the 41st, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20.
Education and Youth.
Senate Bill 42 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 16-6-13.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 43 by Senator Summers of the 13th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-5-7.
Finance.
Senate Bill 44 by Senator Watson of the 11th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-2-165.
Education and Youth.
Senate Bill 45 by Senator Watson of the 11th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-5-7.4 of the
Finance.
Senate Bill 46 by Senator Harbin of the 16th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated.
Government Oversight.
Senate Bill 47 by Senator Anna Vitarte of the 31st, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-8-3 of the Official.
Finance. And let's, Mr. Secretary, let's suspend for a moment. We need to adjust our microphone.
All right. Senate Bill 48 by Senator Parent of the 44th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 35-3-34 of the Official Code of Georgia.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 49 by Senator Parent of the 44th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 4 of Chapter 11 of Title 16.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 50 by Senator Lucas of the 26th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 4 of Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated related to medical.
Regulated Industries and Utilities.
Senate Bill 51 by Senator Setzler of the 37th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated.
Slogo General.
Senate Bill 52 by Senator Goodman of the 8th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated.
Finance.
Senate Bill 53 by Senator Jones of the 10th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 35, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated.
Public Safety.
Senate Bill 54 by Senator Luke Jones of the 10th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia.
Education and Youth.
Senate Bill 55 by Senator Hickman of the 4th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated related to labor and industrial.
Insurance and Labor.
Senate Resolution 52 by Senator Dolezal of the 27th and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to
Economic Development.
Senate Resolution 55 by Senator Summers of the 13th and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to increase the maximum acreage.
Finance.
Senate Resolution 56 by Senator Watson of the 11th and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the
Finance.
Senate Resolution 58 by Senator Parent of the 44th and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to provide that legislative and congressional reapportionment be done by an independent.
Reapportionment.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. That concludes the reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. It's now time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Any motions to excuse? The chair recognizes our distinguished dean and senator from the 15th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 21st.
Senator from the 21st is excused without objection. Any other motions to excuse? Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 28th, 5th, 55th, and 21st, and 36th for business outside the Capitol.
Senators from the 28th, the 5th, the 55th, the 21st, and the 36th excused without objection. Chair recognizes the senator from the 43rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 26th.
26 excused without objection. Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th.
Thank you. Would like to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 36th. 36th.
36?
Without objection. Business
Okay.
outside the Capitol.
36. She's already been excused, but we'll excuse them again. All right. What about John? Excuse Brass, number 6. Brass. Excuse, yeah. 6.
Got it.
Yeah.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 6th.
Senator from the 6th is excused without objection. Good. All right. All right. Now, the secretary will now call the roll of all senators. Please signify your presence by voting yea switch. The secretary will now unlock the machine. Good morning. Our bell. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, bring them in. Okay. What's that? We're good? Chair recognizes the senator from the 24th.
Mr. President, I'd like to excuse the senator from the 3rd.
Thank you,
doing business
Senator.
outside the Capitol.
Senator from the 3rd is excused without objection. All right, it is now time for our morning devotion. All senators, please take your seats and cease all audible conversation. Doorkeepers, please secure the chamber at this time. Our pleasure. It's now my pleasure to recognize the senator from the 32nd, our distinguished senator, to lead in the Pledge of Allegiance and to introduce our chaplain of the day that she has brought. Senator?
Thank you. Please join me as we honor our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, moderation, and courage. That's okay. Good morning, colleagues. I want to introduce you to my pastor, Reverend Kristen Lee. She was appointed as senior pastor at East Cobb United Methodist Church in June of 2018. And as I was saying to her earlier, I'm living in fear that the Methodist Church is going to move her, which they do periodically. She previously served as associate pastor of Roswell United Methodist Church and Fayetteville First Methodist Church. Kristen graduated from the University of Georgia with a Bachelor of Arts in History and Spanish. She then earned her Master of Divinity from Duke University, and she is married to Reverend Dr. Eric Lee, pastor of Liberty Hill United Methodist in Canton, Georgia, and together they share 5 children ranging in age from 9 to 26. When not at church, Kristen can be found cheering at the baseball field, yelling loudly at cheer competitions, enjoying high school band performances, or on the tennis court with a mean return up the alley. This is my small but mighty church where I sing in the choir, and our church was already service-oriented, but when Pastor Lee arrived, we stepped up our game in our community. We serve meals at the local shelter. We read to elementary students. We host Family Promise for families in transition, and generally serve as the hands and feet of Jesus. Reverend Lee is a positive force for me and many others in our community, and I know you'll enjoy hearing her speak. Welcome, Reverend Lee.
Well, good morning. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be with you all today, and especially grateful to Senator Kirkpatrick, Dr. K, for the invitation as well as for the privilege it is to be in ministry with her. I recognize that all of us gathered here today come from a variety of faith backgrounds. Each of us are on our own journeys to discover that which is bigger than ourselves. This means that we don't all turn to the same sacred texts or tell the same religious stories. So this morning I wanted to pull from a story that, while it appears in the sacred texts of Jews and Christians and is also referenced in the Quran, may be familiar to everyone here by virtue of its place in our general culture. It is the story of Jonah. Are you familiar? Yes, some of you? Okay, thank you. Now, usually this story gets sold with a big headline. Beachgoers surprised by man spit out of fish's mouth. It's not a bad headline, right? It grabs your attention. But I think you may know better than most that there is a bigger story behind every headline. As the story is told in my faith tradition, Jonah was a prophet of God and received from God a message to deliver to the Ninevites. When Jonah received this message, he got up and immediately set out in the opposite direction. Not very prophet-like. He boarded a ship in an effort to get away from God, but since it's pretty hard to hide from God, God found him and sent a storm on the sea. Now, the sailors on this ship ended up throwing Jonah overboard at his own request, mind you, and this ended up calming the seas, for it was because of Jonah that the storm had been sent. It was then that Jonah got swallowed up by a big fish, where he remained for 3 days. And he spent those days in prayer, saying, I called out to the Lord in my distress, and he answered me. I have sunk down to the underworld. Its bars held me with no end in sight. But you brought me out of the pit. Deliverance belongs to the Lord. And it was then that God spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah out onto dry land. Grace and mercy extended to a disobedient prophet. Now, as you may have guessed, this whole episode of being swallowed by a fish helped Jonah have a slight change of heart. From the belly of the fish, he went straight to Nineveh and spoke the word of God, albeit a little half-heartedly, but he spoke it nonetheless. And to his great surprise, the people responded. God saw their response, heard them cry out, and God stopped planning to destroy them. Grace and mercy extended to a lost people. Now, at this point in the story, we would assume that Jonah would be excited about this turn of events. As a prophet, he performed his duty, and the results couldn't be denied. It had worked. The people were saved. But Jonah is not excited. Instead, Jonah is angry. Come on, Lord, he says. Wasn't this precisely my point when I was back in my own land? This is why I fled to Tarshish in the first place. I know that you are a merciful and compassionate God, very patient, full of faithful love, and willing not to destroy. But these people? You've got to be kidding me. Surely your grace and your mercy and love, they weren't meant for these people. Now, it's at this point in the story that I believe a different headline could be used. Prophet surprised by God being God. Jonah knew who God was. Jonah knew God as one ready to extend mercy, to show compassion, to shower grace upon grace, to love unconditionally. And yet, when the rubber hits the road, Jonah cannot believe that God's mercy is really that far-reaching, that God's compassion is really that generous. In fact, it seems like Jonah doesn't even want God's grace to be that powerful. He doesn't want God's love to be that wide or that deep. Now, unfortunately, we don't know how this story ends. The last words of Jonah that we read are, "Yes, my anger is good, even to the point of death." And yet I wonder whatever happened to old Jonah? And I really do hope that at some point, maybe in his old age, he looked back on his life and was able to shake his head and see the error of his ways. After all, he knew God. He knew who God was. He knew who God is. He knew God's character, and he just didn't like it. What a difference it makes when we know God, when we declare God's love and God's mercy, not only with our words, but with our actions. I wonder what kind of difference Jonah could have made if what he believed had a bigger influence on how he lived. I wonder. I invite you to pray with me. Oh God, as we prepare to do the work that you have led us to do this day, we ask that our beliefs about who you are, our beliefs about who we are, our beliefs about what you have called us to do, will not just guide our thoughts, but will guide our actions. This we ask in your name. Amen.
now my honor to recognize our distinguished minority leader who has the Doctor of the Day and is going to introduce our Doctor of the Day.
Thank you. My pleasure to introduce Dr. Brian Stansfield. He is an associate professor of pediatrics and vice chair for research in pediatrics at the Medical College of Georgia. As a physician scientist, Dr. Stansfield has several areas of interest related to prematurity, early life growth, and nutrition and cardiovascular disease. He is a graduate of Georgia Southern University and the Medical College of Georgia. My pleasure to introduce Dr. Brian Stansfield.
Thank you, Senator Jones, for that kind introduction. I was raised in McDonough, Georgia, so I feel like I'm a Georgia boy and glad to be here speaking to you today. I want to just thank the governor and this body and the House for their support for the Medical College of Georgia and Augusta University over the years. You guys have formed such a close and strong relationship with that university, and we just appreciate it so much. As a researcher, I'm particularly glad to see that commitment extended in the current governor's budget and with research support there at Augusta University, and really look forward to working with you guys to extend the educational mission, the research mission, and the clinical mission of the Medical College of Georgia to the state of Georgia. I'm delighted to be here. Again, as a neonatologist, I would ask that all of you save your emergency medical conditions for another day. My expertise is exhausted at about the first birthday, so please save any significant medical conditions for tomorrow when the radiologist will be here and can take good care of you. So have a good day.
Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate having you with us. Okay. We've got some special guests with us today, and the Secretary will now read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 44 by Senator Brass to the 6th and others, a resolution recognizing March 9 to 15, 2025 as Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Week at the state capitol and for other purposes. Whereas multiple sclerosis, MS, is a neurological disease of the central nervous system affecting nearly 1 million people in the United States alone, and whereas the National Multiple Sclerosis Society is committed to a world free of MS, heightening public knowledge about and insight into the disease, and whereas since 1946, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society has been a driving force of MS research, relentlessly pursuing prevention, treatments, and a cure, and it's invested more than $1 billion in groundbreaking research, and whereas the mission of the National Multiple Sclerosis Society is to cure MS while empowering people affected by MS to live their best lives, a goal that all Americans and Georgians should support. And now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize March 9 to 15, 2025 as Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Week at the state capitol and encourage all citizens to learn more about the disease and what actions they can take to support individuals with multiple sclerosis as well as their families. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. It's now my privilege to call upon the distinguished senator from the 19th to introduce our special guest for the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is actually a resolution by the senator from the 6th, but he couldn't be here for his mom today. She did 24 hours of labor, but Brass couldn't find his way to make it down to the Capitol this morning. I hope he's watching on TV and heard that, and y'all please excuse me for violating the rules by saying his name, but I thought somebody who wouldn't show up for their mama, we ought to say their name in this chamber. This resolution, though, is for a much more serious cause. As you know, Senator from the 6th and others, because of his mother and other folks across our state, has been intimately involved in making sure that we helped spread awareness about multiple sclerosis and Multiple Sclerosis Week down here at the Capitol. You know, MS is a a debilitating disease that mainly strikes folks between the ages of 20 and 50, often causing quite debilitating symptoms. But this group, the Multiple Sclerosis Society, sorry that I'm having a hard time with my S's there, has helped contribute over $1 billion to groundbreaking research, and I think that deserves a round of applause. With us here today, we obviously have the senator from the 6th mother, Miss Linda Brass. We also have Miss Rachel Collier, Miss Rachel Finich, and Mr. Philip Hodges. But someone else who's down in front who you're going to get to hear from and be inspired by is Miss Tiffany Vinson. See, Miss Tiffany is a wife, a mother, a daughter. She's a friend to all of us here in this chamber. She has 2 children, 2 grown young men now. She's been married for 25 years, and as you can tell, she suffers from multiple sclerosis. She was diagnosed with this disease in May of 2006. She's embraced her journey with resilience and a bold determination to help inspire others, as you will see here soon. Growing up, Tiffany found inspiration in her grandmother, Miss Freddie May Stokes, whom was the first person Tiffany ever saw in a wheelchair. Her grandmother's strength and actions planted seeds for Tiffany's mission to challenge societal norms and narratives about what it means to live with physical challenges. She refuses to use the word disability and instead chooses to use the word adjustability, which she believes better represents the strength and resilience of individuals such as herself who navigate life and realize they must first adjust their mindset in knowing that they can do, also then adjusting how they do things. Tiffany hosts a live podcast called Conversations with Tiffany, The Turning Point, where she speaks with guests who have faced challenges, those challenges being mental, physical, and social. Yet those challenges don't discourage them. She uses them and their stories to help inspire and change our world. She takes pride in being an MS ambassador and using her powerful voice to break barriers and pave the way forward for the change that she believes is her divine purpose in life. And Mr. President, if it's okay, I'd like to ask if you don't mind Miss Tiffany Vinson saying a few words.
Good morning, everyone. Let's say it one more time. Good morning, everyone. All right, let me just first say that I want to thank God for this opportunity to be here in this chamber with you all, also with the visitors, those students who are sitting here. I see you. I was once you. For the legislations, I want to thank you for being here and doing your part. I want to also thank the president of the MS Society, Rachel Finich, who saw a vision in me and has encouraged me and empowered me in such a way. Also with the fellow activists and ambassadors, I thank you for standing here with me. Mama Brass, thank you. I would like to thank my husband who's not here and my mother and those who support me. My best friend is here as well, and he's also here, and my other best friend's here as well. The reason why I'm here is because we're here to not just talk about the MS itself and what it does. We want to talk about the impact that not only do I make, but what you can make. It does not, the diagnosis does not just affect a certain amount of people. It affects young and old, rich and challenged, economically challenged. It affects those who beyond race. It affects all different factors. But what matters is what we do. Things that affect us is not just the physical, it's the mental, but it's also the social. And you as legislators, representatives, senators have the opportunity to make the change. One change that's needed is the HB 100 bill. What is that, you say? That is the pharmaceutical bill to keep the prescriptions down, the cost. There are people who are living with this journey and they're doing this battle. And one aspect is the financial aspect of medication. I myself rely on medication. Diagnosed 19 years. I do believe in God and I believe in restoring all in health. But in having that belief, I also have to have medication that will go along with that. And I believe that doctors, lawyers, senators, and legislators can help do that. So you making and passing that bill will help those who are living with this diagnosis so they're able to live a life with intention. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's give Mama Brass a round of applause. We are glad to have her with us. And Senator from the 19th, thank you for picking up the slack for the senator from the 6th, or as you say, just another day in the chamber here, right? You know?
He's my
thank
new
you.
son.
He's your new son. All right. Thank you. All right, moving on now. Are there any unanimous consents? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege this morning? Is there a list? Start with here. Start with 7. All right. Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th for a point of personal privilege. Where is she? We will come back to the senator from the 7th. Chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. This morning, colleagues, as many of you know, this is Savannah Chatham Day at the Capitol, also known as the great state of Chatham. We tend to be a little unique and do things differently down my part of the state. I'd like to recognize a few folks that happen to be in the gallery today. I'd like to recognize some of our students who came up I-16, that small two-lane highway. If you haven't rode on it, you can try it, from the Savannah Youth Commission, Savannah Youth Council, Savannah Youth Ambassadors, and the Chatham County Youth Commission. Would y'all just stand up and wave your hands up there in the gallery so all of the senators can see you all? That's our SYA, Savannah Youth Ambassadors group. I'm proud to report, I think, Mr. President, all of them do live in my district. They're not old enough to vote yet, but this is good training. Colleagues, I'd also like to recognize another guest that I have in the chamber with me today, and that is our district attorney, the Honorable Shalina Cook-Jones of the Eastern Judicial Circuit. If y'all would just give her a round of applause this morning. She came up from the city of Savannah. So we're excited to have Savannah Chatham Day here at the Capitol with a few of our closest friends this afternoon. I don't have any extra tickets. If you don't have one, that's between you and your God. Amen. So with that, Mr. President, I see that you're auditioning for the role, and looks like you're doing an okay job behind me. So no matter how this thing shakes out, just know I said that. And with that, I yield the well.
It's in the record, Senator. Thank you. Much appreciated. The chair recognizes the senator from the 7th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I condemn the Trump administration for terrorizing our immigrant communities with these cruel and unnecessary actions by ICE that target individuals that have pending claims of asylum that have followed the process created by our government after World War II. These actions don't just separate families, they tear apart the very fabric of our communities. These are the children sitting next to yours in school, the neighbors you greet every morning, the hardworking people paying taxes and striving for the same American dream we all hold dear. These ICE actions don't make us safer. They sow fear and division. And let's be clear, immigrants are not the enemy. If deportations are necessary, we should follow the law and focus on violent criminals, not families and workers trying to make ends meet. Georgia is stronger because of its diversity, and I will fight every day to ensure we protect all of our people and not persecute them. In this country, undocumented individuals have certain rights. Here's what you need to know. 1, you don't have to open the door. ICE cannot enter a private space without a valid search warrant signed by a judge. This includes apartments, homes, private spaces, and restaurants, including kitchens, businesses, churches, and health centers, and etc. An ICE deportation warrant is not the same as a search warrant. Ask to see any warrant through the door or window. Check that it has your correct name, address, and a judge's signature. You can speak to officers without opening the door. 2, you have the right to remain silent. You have your right to privacy and to not answer questions, including where you were born. Say out loud that you are exercising your right to remain silent. And do not show false documents or lie. And 3, you have the right to a lawyer. If detained, tell ICE you want to speak to a lawyer. Do not sign anything without understanding it. And ask to contact your consulate to help find legal assistance. Stay calm, assert your rights, protect yourself. En este país, las personas indocumentadas tienen derechos. Quiero que sepan lo siguiente. 1, no abras la puerta. ICE no puede entrar en tu propiedad o lugar de trabajo sin una orden firmada por un juez. Esto significa que a menos que tú los invites a pasar, ellos no pueden entrar en tu apartamento o áreas privadas de negocio, iglesia, clínica o cualquier otro lugar cerrado al público. Una orden de deportación de ICE no es lo mismo que una orden de registro. Pide ver que le orden por la puerta o la ventana. Revisa que tenga tu nombre correcto, dirección y la firma de un juez. Puedes hablar con los oficiales sin abrir la puerta. 2, tienes el derecho a permanecer en silencio. Tienes derecho a tu privacidad. No tienes que responder preguntas ni decir dónde naciste. Solo de en voz alta. Uso mis derechos de permanecer en silencio. No mientas ni usos falsos documentos. En 3, tienes derecho a un abogado. Si te detienen, diles a las oficiales de ICE que quieres hablar con un abogado. No formas nada que no. Pídele una llamada, contacta al consulado para que ofrezcan. Lo más importante, mantener calma, conocer tus derechos y protegerte. Y si necesitan Más información o recursos pueden encontrarlos en mis redes sociales. Gracias. I yield, Mr. President.
Senators yielded the well. It is always good to have our dedicated public servants come visit us in the chamber, especially those that are former members of this body. And former Senator Shelley Eccles is with us. I strongly suspect she is a guest of the current Senator of the 49th. Let's give Shelley Eccles a nice warm welcome for being with us. Chair recognizes the senator from the 50th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today I rise on a very somber moment. We had a tragedy in Northeast Georgia. Yesterday, our Chief Judge in the Mountain Judicial Circuit, Russell Smith, was found deceased in his home. Russell, or Rusty, as he was known, was an incredible judge. And I'll tell you, some people say being a judge is easy. And I may agree at sometimes, but being a good judge is hard. And being a great judge is almost impossible. And I'll tell you, Rusty was a great judge. He was appointed in 2010 by Sonny Perdue. And I've got his bio, but I'm just going to kind of speak from the heart. Rusty, he always answered the phone when you called. He was dedicated. He worked not only in his circuit, but around the state. He was passionate about accountability courts, about drug courts. He was fair. And the thing that I think most people remember most about him is he was friendly, he was kind, but he also had mercy. And I think that's something that we're missing a lot, not just in the judicial system, but around the state. He had mercy on defendants because he could see the best in them. And instead of throwing the book at them, he would encourage them to go into programs like drug court, go into accountability court, and he would check up on them. And he changed so many lives throughout his time as the chief judge in the Mountain Circuit that although he was only there for 15 years, I think the ripples that he made will be seen for generations to come. He was a very good friend of mine, and he will be missed. And Mr. President, I ask for a moment of silence for Judge Rusty Smith.
Please rise. The senator has asked for a moment of silence. I'll add to comments. I too personally knew Judge Smith, and he was a fine jurist and a fine public servant. And we'll leave it to the words from the senator from the 50th who did such a fine job. A moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hello, my name is the senator from the 14th, and this is Trump Morning News. Trump Morning News, your leading source for Trump entertainment, or is it entertainment? But always we are giving you a commentary on the health of your democracy. Monday night, in Trump Morning News, Monday night, the Trump administration issued an order effectively freezing all federal funds, grant aid to trillions of dollars worth of recipients. This has led to a complete shutdown in the Medicaid portals, websites in many states, as well as the immediate freeze and denial of funds for the following programs: Meals on Wheels for seniors, the Veteran Suicide Hotline, bulletproof vests for police, school lunches for hungry kids, housing and rent assistance, and again, Medicaid payments. These are all programs that have been authorized by congressional action. Those funds are not just authorized, but required to be spent by the executive branch. Congress passed a law in 1974 called the Impoundment Control Act, which prevented presidents from unilaterally freezing the administration of federal funds duly authorized by Congress. This was in response to President Nixon's attempt to do something a little similar, but not nearly as drastic as what President Trump is trying to do today. This crisis is still ongoing. We're moving into the second full day with millions of recipients unsure where their federal funds might come from. Here, with critical commentary on today's events, is the senator from the 14th. Senator from the 14th, what do you have to say about that? Well, I guess what I would have to say is that when an adult wants to control something, an adult tries to use persuasion. An adult tries to make a case for why federal funding should be modified or why Congress's authorizations should be changed. But when a child wants to break something, a child just destroys it or controls something by breaking it. What we see from the Trump administration's actions is a childlike attempt to control federal government by destroying it. People in both parties should agree that this is not the way to run a federal government. The last thing I'll say is, typically there's more than like 10 senators in the room, but the incentive not to speak directly to the camera goes down with the number of senators. In any event, it is great to see everybody. This has been your favorite in Trump News Entertainment, Trump Morning News. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Entertaining, if nothing else. Chair recognizes the senator from the 39th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome CSG South to the Georgia Senate. CSG South is a nonprofit, nonpartisan member organization that serves 15 southern states. Acting as an extension of our offices, they provide policy, research and analysis, leadership development, and government staff training. I first got involved with CSG myself when I took part in their CALS program, which is their Center for Advancement of Leadership Skills, back in 2021. And our senator from the 43rd, who I don't see today yet, took place in that program last year. And over the past 2 years, I've had the great opportunity to be an appointee to the Fiscal Affairs and Government Operations Committee. But they also host their annual Southern Legislative Conference, known as CSLC, which this year will be held July 19th through 23rd in Birmingham, Alabama. They are headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, and today we have with us, and I'm going to ask them to stand, Policy Analyst Katie Lee, Policy Analyst Aaron Toomey, Director of Marketing and Programs Angel Tuzma, Director of Development Jill Clark, Communications Coordinator Hope Grindle, and Programs Associate Jaslyn Jones. Let's please give them a warm Georgia welcome. Thank you. I yield the well.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. The chair recognizes the distinguished senator from the 4th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, I want to take a moment to recognize a group of exceptional advocates who are joining us in the gallery. I'd like for them to go in and stand up. We got students from Georgia Southern, students from Georgia State University, students from Georgia Tech, University of Georgia, Kennesaw State, Berry College, and East Georgia College. Many of these individuals are from Georgia's inclusive post-secondary education programs, which provide students with intellectual and developmental disabilities the opportunity to pursue higher education, build job skills, and contribute meaningfully to our communities. They are here today to advocate for those who didn't have the same opportunities. Individuals with disabilities who are still trapped in shelter workshops and earning less than minimum wage under outdated 14C certificates. While these advocates have benefited from inclusive education and employment pathways, they stand in solidarity with those whose potential is limited by policies that fail to recognize the value of their work. Let's welcome these advocates and take their message to heart as we consider my bill, the Dignity and Pay Act, which would make Georgia a place where all citizens, regardless of disability, have the chance to work with dignity and fairness. Thank you. Mr. President, I yield the will.
Are there any other points of personal privilege? All right, the chair hears none and sees none. We're going to move on now. You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? The chair hears none. Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? Chair hears none. All right. I will gladly recognize our majority leader for a motion.
President, thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Thursday, January 30th.
Secretary will read the announcements.
Mr. President, the Rules Committee will meet upon adjournment in room 450 in the Capitol. At 2 p.m., the Insurance and Labor Committee will meet in Mez 1. At 3 p.m., the Health and Human Services Committee will meet in room 450 in the Capitol. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Are there any additional announcements? Any other announcements? If not, the majority leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Thursday, January 30, 2025 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. All those opposed will say no. I think the ayes clearly have it. Look forward to seeing you all in the morning. The Senate is adjourned.